definitely agree with that. You're right. It does come down to having that presence of mind to continue creating the walls. One Zealot there, not really enough. Not the best of defenses. So Oz going into game number 2 really has to kind of shape it up there. It's not necessarily... It's not a build order loss. It's not a loss of your opponent just being better than you in that regard. It's just a loss of you not taking the precautions at your front base, and thus your mistake.
Exactly. Well, we're going to be going into our second map relatively soon here, and, you know, Slivko has to be feeling great starting out his group with a first game win against Oz, who is, I feel like, one of the players you have to look at and be like, he might win this tournament.
Yeah,
Oz could absolutely come out on top of this tournament, no question about it. He is a world-class Protoss player. Yeah,
he's had multiple finishes very, very high up in tournaments like MLG, etc. He's just so strong. There was a phase where his PvP was looking a little interesting at one point.
A little bit interesting.
Slightly more interesting than any other PvP than has ever occurred.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's solid across the board. So Oz here, still looking to eke out potentially another game against Slivko. But Slivko, you can never doubt him. We were saying that he was a long-term macro player, but it just showed that if he finds the triggers, if he finds the possibilities, no reason to not go for that aggression.
Exactly. Well, our next map gonna be Ohana. What do you expect to see here on Ohana? I'm kind of feeling an Immortal Sentry push, to be honest.
Can be very strong, can indeed. The architecture is pretty good for it, depending on if you don't get caught through the middle of the map. There's a lot of chokes to really kind of hunker down and really constrict the Zerg very well. And also, some Zergs, they don't take down those middle rocks, which can also hurt. Slivko's not necessarily one of those players, but it can happen from time to time.
Well, I tell you, you know, while I look at this map and the way the first game went and think, you know what, an Immortal Sentry push might be a nice choice, this is Oz we're talking about. Oz is a very creative Protoss that definitely has his own way to play. So
that's true.
While I feel like that would be a good idea, I don't know that that's what his thought process is.
He might just think, hey, well, that didn't work. I really kind of want to try it again. But again, it could be map-specific here. We could be seeing Oz just quite easily going into just a phenomenal macro game. Ohana allows you to do that in a similar way to how the 1v1 maps just work across Daybreak, Cloud Kingdom, and Ohana as well. Securing a third isn't too difficult as long as you get the right SimCity going.
Yeah. All right, well, looks like we are in the game. Let's go ahead and jump on into it and get this going.
As for now, we will have Mr. VP BenQ Slivko going to be spawning up in the top left-hand corner, the winner of our previous game, and spawning down in the bottom right-hand corner. We have Fnatic Raid called Oz going to be spawning here as our blue Protoss. After a very, very interesting game number 1, needs to bring himself back into this against our Russian Zerg.
Well, Oz is starting off with a pylon in the main base, and that means, of course, that he wants to most likely go for a forge in the main, which is harder to scout. You can't kill it off, and you can kind of hide what you're doing a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there is technically another option with the gateway opener, which can be quite useful as well. We see people like Grubby doing it from time to time, but the forge in base is certainly very, very stable. It's something that Startail Protosses like to go back to quite a lot. We saw Parting actually using it against a lot of the Zergs during the BWC, and unfortunately for Scarlet, she tried to counter it just blindly during one where she went for a 10 pull, but was sadly not able to.
Yes, yes. You know, I feel like it's actually, it might be in some ways best against early pulls, especially something like a 6 pull where you're not going to get the wall in up anyways, so the forge is already in your main base. And in fact, that's a pretty early forge, so he might be going for offensive cannon here. That's definitely a possibility with what he's doing.
And especially since it's Oz as well. I mean, you really can't doubt him in anything he does. He can pull these things out.
Well, this drone coming out to the expand. Looks like Oz just wants to block it for now. And in fact, he's going for his second pylon at home. So it's not going to be offensive cannon. Very much so. It's going to be a higher economy Nexus opening.
A little bit of a stumble there by Oz, allowing that hatchery to get down, but he didn't want to take as much damage as he would have normally done from that drone. Still receives and conserves all of his shields. Meanwhile, going for that Nexus as well. This is normally, like, the way in which a 10 pull for this kind of build is like designed is just to force the cancel of the Nexus, right? But still, it's certainly not happening here. Slivko would never end up going for something like an early pull. That would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, kind of DRG-like in this regard.
Yes.
So everything.
Ooh.
Whoa, he's going gas before gateway. All right, gas before gateway and before cannon. So Oz definitely playing it in his own way here with this extra early gas. I wonder what he's going for. I mean, gas is early and the forge first. Could it be a super quick upgrade rush?
I guess potentially. I mean, it would line up nicely with the warp gate as well to just try and get out, that much gas. Because you end up getting the cybernetics core, right? And you've got, like 100 and maybe some gas eventually, but not really enough to start everything instantaneously.
Yeah.
So
could be Turbo DT as well. I mean,
cool.
Whenever I see Oz go for gas before gateway, I feel like it does turn into DT, but we'll see on that. I mean, this guy is one of our most creative Protosses in the entire world, so it's pretty hard to guess, man.
Yeah, he makes the builds. He doesn't actually follow from examples. And for now, we will have just 5 more drones out on the way for Slivko. Plus one has been started before the cybernetics core is even finished. And I mean, this is pretty darn quick. It is.
Yeah, that's a fast +1 right there, no doubt about it. All right, we'll see what he does with that. And he actually doesn't have his second gas yet, so this could be like a +1 7 gate or something where he didn't want to get the second gas, but he still wanted that +1.
Theory crafting for a second. Is this if he's just the cybernetics core finishes up, he starts warp gate even. If he just chrono boosts like profusely on both of these things, does something like a +1 4 gate hit way faster than it normally does?
It might. It absolutely might, but he is getting that second gas as well at the natural. But you can still go for 4 gate +1 pushes with this. So, this is one of the hardest things as a commentator is commentating Oz and trying to actually figure out what it is that he's doing, because this is the first time I've seen this.
Yeah, he's throwing down 2 more gateways in the back for now, so going up to 3 gates, which technically is going to be okay for those zealots if he wants to go for them. I mean, it still benefits stalkers, right? It's still pretty good, just having a little bit of extra DPS. Roach Warren's on the way for Slivko here at pretty standard time, and the Stargate has been added as well.
All right. All right, maybe let's back this up now. Maybe a +1 warp in at the main
with
through
the high ground,
and the high ground vision.
Yeah.
This is difficult.
This is getting tricky. He's gonna once again poke forwards with his Zealot and Stalker. This time actually getting them caught by the Zerglings as opposed to from game 1. And the Zealot's actually being pretty cost efficient there.
Yeah, that was some swift micro there by Oz, and he almost has that +1 on that Stalker if he wants to stay down here and harass a bit more. But well, we will see. He's actually finished a couple gates and that warp gate, so he's actually going to have a little +1 push here with Phoenixes on the way.
Yeah, and I mean this is something that I've seen quite a bit. I mean, where getting the Phoenix out with this, he doesn't have any pylons near the main right now, so it's still not really looking like that warping on the high ground. He's just still harassing this third base really, really avidly here. But with that +1, it's going to make it so hard to deal with this with just Lings, and he has to pull all the drones off the line to combat these Zealots. Yeah,
this is already being really efficient for Oz. He's killed off 3 drones, a Queen, hit off a lot of Zerglings as well. And during all this time, he's getting Phoenixes and a Robo. Oz is doing a little bit of everything. This is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's still Zerglings on the way. He's now preparing his Spore Crawlers, and what would assume he's actually spotted the Stargate. Let me have a quick check of that as well. No, he hasn't spotted it, but he's still preparing for it. He's thinking that, well, you're poking with this. It's quite late on in the game. Where are you spending all of your gas? And Spore Crawlers is a pretty good option for dealing with not only airborne threats, but just the potentials of DTs as well, that have kind of been common in this tournament thus far.
That is true. They certainly have been. Well, he's about to have that big 4 Phoenix number, and when he has that, this is... Yeah, there's spores out, but I guarantee you he's going to kill a lot of stuff anyways, so... I mean, Oz has, even though Slivko is up in supply a little bit, I feel like Oz has had just a brilliant opening this game.
Yeah, those Phoenix are now on the way to do a little bit of harassment. 4 Phoenix means that you can lift up a Queen and kill it off in 1 lift, which is very, very nice indeed. As for now, he will head across the map here, having to look for a little bit of maybe an Overlord vein, rich vein of Overlords to actually start picking away at. But for now, picks up the Queen and should be able to kill it.
That's That's right. That queen will be going down in a matter of seconds. Oh, he loses a Phoenix. Doing something else at home, unfortunately, for Oz, but very fortunately for Slivko. To get one Phoenix kill this early in the game is very nice.
He's still going for Phoenix production, Nato says. Like, is he going to use it to counter Infestors? He sees the Infestation Pit. He wants to pick them up, potentially, if he goes for some kind of push on 2 base.
Yeah, some Protosses really like to get up to 6 Phoenixes nowadays, and I mean, this would have been number 6 that he's making here.
Yeah.
But I think he is going to stop here. Yeah, it's just, you can't stay on Phoenixes too long or the rest of your tech is going to suffer.
Yeah, those Immortals now cranking out, as well as the armor and Blink here for Oz. Looks like he's moving out his army into a position where he can secure a 3rd, and indeed he will do. But Slivko already knows about that. He's getting his Pathogen Glands, as well as that +1 missile. Did he just cancel his +1 missiles? He just got started melee.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a little bit different.
He did.
Well, you know, Oz is pumping out some Immortals now, so maybe that's a good plan. But yeah, that seems a little bit odd. You know, those Roaches definitely going to be used long-term in this game, but he is focusing now on the Zergling and Infestor production. In the meantime, Oz is taking that 3rd base and teching up to Colossus.
Well, I mean, this melee upgrade, it just says to me, like, well, he's aiming for a really long game now. He's just saying, well, I want... Oh, wow. Wow, at that spread of Phoenix. Actually trying to deter any kind of fungals that would go down. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. But, you know, as you say, he's going into a really long game with that melee. Well, yeah, in some ways, but also the range attack is very useful in a very long game on Infested Terrans.
True, yeah, true.
So it's a little bit weird of a choice.
A little bit of everything here, really.
Yeah.
It's a pick and mix game.
That's I think that's the best way to describe what we're seeing here. Yeah. Slivko right now taking that 4th base. Not something Oz can hit quite yet. I mean, he's got a kind of interesting army that's very Zealot heavy, which I guess will do pretty well. But hold on, we actually have these Infestors coming out. And will he actually be able to get rid of all these now?
Yeah, picks up a queen, tries to kill that off, but is unable to do so. Nice fungal growth once again landing on a few. He will start picking up some, though, and they die pretty darn quickly to those Phoenix. He could get away with a few here, but he's going to neglect them. Don't neglect the Phoenix. Okay, so he does get away. Wow.
Well, that guy's slow.
Yeah, he really is. For a Phoenix. Okay, so we do have now Hive actually morphing in. That's going to be on the way in just a little second, as well as that Spire. And right now, we have Oz with no knowledge of this Hive actually morphing in, so he really needs to know the timings that are actually occurring here.
And, you know, he's actually going Colossus and adding a 2nd Robo, so we're definitely going to have one of these huge Colossus production spikes. Has a ton of Zealots, but got Blink. I feel like I'm watching a PBT right now.
Yeah, this is just... Everything about this game has been kind of strange. I mean, even the 4th location for Slivko is kind of out of the way and kind of odd. He keeps picking up these queens, though. Will finally get fungled. I should think that this will get shut down at this point, because 2 Phoenix can't really do anything alone if they're able to get away.
Yeah, they don't do very much anymore. I mean, it's not quite as bad as 1 Phoenix.
That's true.
But still very unimpressive.
Yeah. Unimpressive is certainly the word. They're not going to be able to do too much at all, other than soak up a little bit of damage from some Corruptors. Woo, that's not the most.
Well, you know, he has +2 attack, about to finish with only 1 Carapace, and the second not even started for Slivko, with Charge on the way. And remember, I was mentioning there's a lot of Zealots. There's 23 Zealots right now. And he's getting that Temple Archives. This is becoming so popular in New Korea. You know, it was a really weird opening for Oz, but he's going to the same place that we've seen a lot recently, which is this super heavy Zealot Colossus push with a couple Archons to just punish any Corruptors flying in.
Yeah, there's just, I've seen this quite a few times recently, and there's just so many Zealots. You can, normally people will say, well, you've got Zealots, I'll just fungal them out of the way. You can't do any damage. But there's so many Zealots, and they're really, really tanky at this point. They're against just fungals, they're not really doing too much. They're not armored units, so they're not taking that bonus damage, and you have to land so many, and if you've got a Zergling base with that, hey, guess what? They're going to get shredded.
Yeah. Well, you know, this very Zealot-heavy army, it's a nice army, and it's really powerful, but that's before Broodlords are out. Yes. Now we have a lot of Broodlords actually out on the map for Slivko, and while this may end up killing the 4th base, it looks like, it's going to be kind of brutal because the better army composition definitely goes to Slivko at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, Oz still does not know about all of that tech. He does now after seeing all those Broodlings rain down on a few of these Zerglings. And actually the Immortals get caught way out of position there, get completely decimated.
And Oz is actually running away. That 4th base for Slivko going to stay up. In the meantime, he's taking a 5th right now. And that means bad things for Oz. I mean, he's on 3 base against what is soon to be a 5 base Zerg who has his unit composition countered.
Yeah, very, very bad news indeed here. Slivko playing very, very well. As we said before, he's so adept in these kinds of situations. He's happy to sit around here with his Spine Crawlers. Once again, Oz actually going to push in here. Blinks forward, trying to take some down these Broodlords, but he's going to lose those Stalkers very, very quickly. He's actually blinking in a few extra little pockets of Stalkers here, but it's not enough, I don't think. I don't think he can take out the rest of these Broodlords. He just doesn't have the Stalkers.
There's just not enough anti-air here, and as he targets down the rest of the Broodlords, I mean, there's another blinking of Stalkers, and almost turn the tide, but it doesn't look like it's gonna quite work.
No, there's just too many Broodlords here. I mean, there's Infestus Terrans as well. Even very nice transfuses there by Slivko to try and save that last Broodlord. It bought him a little bit of time to actually save the second Broodlord here, so that was a very nice transfuse, and another one as well, even killing off the remnants of this army in the form of those Immortals.
You know what? Slivko just super impressing today. Look at these supplies, 156 to 88. Is there any way for Slivko to lose from here with all these bases? It's hard to say.
Oh, it's going to be so hard for Oz here to really kind of recuperate this. Look at this, Slivko just decides, well, I'll just morph in 7 more Broodlords and make your life a living hell from here on. That's one of the sacrifices you make if you're going for that heavy Zealot army. You don't really have that many Stalkers to actually kind of really get in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Oz is, okay, GG. I was going to say, Oz is kind of has no way to win this. Slivko 2-0's Oz. That, I mean,
wow.
I'm not, like, super surprised he can take out Oz, but for him to just 2-0 Oz like that, you know what? Let's take a look at those 2 games, to be honest.
Yep.
The first game, Oz didn't get his wall up quite in time against a lot of Zerglings. Second game, I think that you said it perfectly. He didn't know the hive timing. Because if he did, he could have moved out a lot earlier.
Yeah, right. And he would have had, again, that very, very meaty composition to do some damage, even if, again, it's really important to emphasize this. Even if you are landing Funkles on all of those Zealots, chances are you're not going to get all of them. And chances are those Zealots are going to be doing a lot of damage with that plus. They hit like a truck with +3 weapons.
They seriously do, man. And in fact, they have 2 attacks, so it's 2 trucks. Actually,
it's
that's
2
what
trucks.
it feels like. I've been hit by a Zealot. It's very painful.
Yeah?
I barely survived.